Good evening. Good evening. It is 6 p.m. on the dot, Wednesday evening. That means it's time for Wednesdays in the Word. I am host again and the pastor of the Antioch Baptist Church. My name is Dwayne Allen Hawkins, and happy to have the privilege of leading Antioch and hosting on this evening another edition of Wednesdays in the Word. Starting our new curriculum on today, and what a joy and excitement that is. Looking forward to sharing this new encounter with each of you, my brothers and sisters, Christian friends, all who are with us on this evening. But before we do that, come on in and share with us what your color is, and if there's anything in particular that we can share with you regarding life, anything that is noteworthy, any challenges, any prayer requests, any successes, anything that's going on with you in life. Come on in and let us know that you're here, share your color, and then anything else that's going on. We want to make sure we take the opportunity to connect and to care before we get started with our lesson. Good evening, Alma. Glad that you are with us. Always glad that you are with us. You are green, and I'm glad that you are here with us on this evening. I guess I should have started before I shared that you were green. I am mostly in the green zone. Mostly in the green zone. Um, Maybe a touch of blue, but mostly in the green zone. And so yesterday, Sonia and I went walking, and we did our normal walk. I can't remember how long it is. I think it's maybe 2 miles. I can't remember. Um, but I think it was the best I've ever felt going for a walk since I've been dealing with my respiratory issues. I think that's the best I've felt. A little bit slower pace, but I think that's the best I've ever felt. And getting done, I think that was the least fatigued I had ever been uh, since my respiratory issues this spring. And so that is a good thing. And so that's what I want to share with y'all on today. Listen, we got Ray with us. Glad that you are with us, Ray. Ray is in the green zone. What a blessing. Glad to have you with us. Uh, Ray is the newest, I believe he's the newest member of the Antioch Baptist Church. Glad to have him with us. Let's see, Alma. Hello, Pastor Dwayne and First Lady Sonia and families. Love y'all. Well, we love you too. And yes. And we love you too. And we're glad that you're with us. Green and focused. Awesome. Awesome. That's what Cyrus Bean would say if he were in my shoes right now. Anybody know who Cyrus Bean is? All right. Stacia is in the place. Hey, y'all. I'm Green. We are glad to have you with us on this evening. Stacia is here and she is green. Aunt Johnny is with us on this evening and she is green. Awesome, awesome, awesome. A big shout out to Ray from Alma. What a big shout out. We are grateful. that you are with us and joining the Wednesdays in the Word gang. We are a good gang of people, Ray, and we welcome you to our Wednesdays in the Word discipleship study group. Awesome, awesome. Anybody know who Cyrus Bean is? Stacia got it from Scandal. That's how Cyrus Bean talks. He just drags all of the syllables out. And I just finished, I don't know, my third or fourth time going through Scandal every episode. And the last episode in the last season was, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I forgot from the last time I watched it. And I'm just telling you, I didn't like it. The last episode on the last season, they did some things that I just didn't like. Anyways, I'm not going to say them because I'm ahead of the first lady and she probably doesn't remember. Look, Stacia said, you didn't like it either. I didn't like it either. I'm glad I'm not the only one. That last episode of the last season, I just didn't like it. They did some things that I just, I'm not trying to spoil it from the first lady, but I'm just telling y'all, I ain't like it. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Alma says, me neither. Y'all remember the last episode of the last season of Scandal? Y'all remember that? Don't tell her, y'all. Don't tell the first lady. She wants to watch it, but I'm just telling y'all, I ain't like it. And look at all the people who agree with me that y'all didn't like it either. Yeah. One of my favorite, well, okay. I'm trying to say it without saying it, but maybe I should just not say it. And that would be the best way to say it without saying it, is just to not say it at all. So anyways, I finished it the other day and I was like, I don't like that. Look, we got the Dr. Deacon with us. She is the only member of the Antioch Baptist Church who is both a doctor and a diaconate. And the first initial of the first name and the first initial of the middle name are all the same. Deacon, Dr. Deirdre Denise. Wow.
That's a
All
lot of D's.
Karen McKinley is with us. Green. And did you watch the last episode of the last season of Scandal? I was doing my Cyrus Bean imitation, and Karen says, wow. That's what Karen has to say about it. Last episode of the last season of Scandal, I was doing my Cyrus Bean impersonation, dragging out all the syllables as he always does. He kind of talks like that. That dude is a monster, a snake in the grass, which has absolutely nothing to do with Bible study. Karen did not watch Scandal. I'm not saying you should, but I'm trying to figure out why you didn't. I'm, I'm not trying to say you should, but I'm trying to figure out why didn't you watch it? That's really what I want to know. All right, there is a first lady sighting. Hopefully, she'll come on camera in a minute, and maybe she can give her Cyrus Bean impersonation in her weekly Baptist First Lady greeting. All right, y'all. What is your color? What's going on? I completed a walk with First Lady yesterday, and That was the best I felt since my respiratory issues, and that was the least fatigued I felt when I got done. And that is my excitement that I want to share. Ray didn't watch it as well. Bible study was going on at the same time as Scandal. Not if you got Netflix. Not if you have Netflix. And it was Thursdays. It used to be Thursdays at, I don't know, 7 o'clock, and or no, 8 o'clock or something, and then Grey's Anatomy, and then How to Get Away with Murder. It was like the Shonda Rhimes trifecta or something like that. Anyways, um, if everyone has had opportunity to share their color and um, what's going on with them, uh, yeah, yes, Thursdays on ABC, right? It was Grey's Anatomy, then it was Scandal, then it was How to Get Away with Murder, and um, there you have it, Ray. Now you know what you must do. You don't have Netflix, you have Prime Video. Scandals everywhere, man. I'm sure you can find it. I'm not advocating that you should. I'm just trying to figure out why you didn't. Certainly, there are better things that we could all be doing with our time than to be watching Netflix. I'm just saying. All right. We are going to we're gonna get rolling. There you have it, Ray. It's on Pluto for free. I'm waiting on First Lady to get on camera so she can give us her Cyrus Bean imitation. That is what I'm waiting on. In the meantime, if you have them available, get your documents ready. And I got a brief update that I want to give before we start with our lesson. But before all of that, are you ready? All right, here we go. Believing, being, belonging, becoming. It is in the word everything that we need pertaining to life and godliness. God has made available to us through his word. And it is in particular the value of belonging and becoming. It is those two values that are really kind of behind where we're at and where we're headed in terms of our next study about this whole idea of purpose. It addresses our belonging as well as it addresses the issue of becoming. And there is a direct correlation to what we're studying and the values of the Antioch church that drive those as well. And so I just want to make sure that we understand these connections And if there is any other connection to the values, to not only what we're doing in Antioch, but what's going on in your own life, I want to encourage you to share those so that we can do a better job of seeing those connections and deepening those values in our everyday life. And so, First Lady, give us a good old First Lady greeting and give us your Cyrus Bean imitation.
I do not have a Cyrus bean. um, yeah, I don't have one of those. But good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. I am green, feeling pretty good, and I hope that you are too.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for greeting us in First Lady fashion. I think that's in the First Lady handbook. And also, First Ladies also are responsible um, to be prepared at any given moment to give a response to the welcome when you go to other churches for afternoon services. That is in the First Lady handbook. And possibly to at least have at least one big old hat. I think that's in the First Lady handbook as well. Um, just really quickly, I made a couple of slight changes in our describing maturity, and I wanted to share those with you all because I also made those changes in the assessment. I think I made them all in the assessment. So, and they really fall into the individual hands. What do mature disciples practice personally? And some of them were changes in wordings, and then I added one. The changes in wording were really about, they really didn't change the meaning that much, but I wanted to make sure that they represented skills and not just postures. And so, where it originally said daily surrender to God, the skill is to discern and respond to God's voice. So there was a slight change there. And then the other one had to do with purpose. Again, just a slight change in the wording, align your life with God's purpose. And the one that was added was persevere through trials with hope. That one was so significant. I thought that it was worthy of reintroducing back into there. So there's really only one that is new. The other ones are just kind of worded differently. So if you haven't already taken your assessment, you'll notice if you get a new one this weekend from church or online that those wordings are different. If you have the old one, it's not a big deal. Just wanted to let you know that those were some slight changes. All right. Lakana is with us. Good evening. Glad to have you with us on this evening. So let us kind of get to where we're going to get to on this evening. So if you have your document digitally or if you have it in hard copy, the spiritual formation series, it is with great excitement. Um, None of this information is new, but sharing it in this group for the purpose of spiritual growth is really kind of an exciting thing. And so I'm grateful to have this opportunity to share with each of you on this evening. How it fits into your growth journey. Um, so there are three interconnected frameworks in this particular track, and this is the spiritual foundations track. The spiritual foundations track. And in that track, we talked about last week how that differs from biblical foundations, which is more about understanding the Bible. its storyline, stories of the Bible, categorizing of the Bible, and the Sunday school is the disciple. The for adults is the discipleship group that falls into that category. And in the spiritual formation track, there are multiple discipleship groups, and this is just one. So this particular curriculum is available to all of the discipleship groups in this particular track. You can't hear me. Can y'all hear me on camera? And I'm looking on um, my cell phone, and there's a signal issue, but I don't know if that's just related to my personal cell phone, and not where I'm broadcasting from. And I'm not sure if y'all can hear me. Can y'all still hear me in the studio? Okay. That might be something on your end, Lakana. She says she can't hear. That might be something on your end. Okay. So there's actually 3 in this series. One addresses purpose, which is this particular document, attempts to clarify who you are and why. Just got something else. Lost sound on Facebook, but you still have it in the studio. I'm not quite sure how to diagnose that. First Lady, you know how to fix that?
I'm not sure what's happening. So on Facebook, it says you're still live, but it looks frozen. We all look frozen on Facebook.
Oh, really? And as I'm looking on my cell phone, everything is spinning.
Yep, it says the live has ended.
And it says this video has ended. Okay, I'm just getting a notification. Says we're having trouble streaming to Facebook. This may be an issue on Facebook's end. It is possible the stream was ended or deleted on Facebook. We'll keep trying and let you know if it's resolved. Please check Facebook to ensure the stream looks okay. If this continues, try creating a new live stream. We're just removing this destination. So I'm not sure. It's definitely not something that I have done. It's either the connection from StreamYard to Facebook or something on Facebook itself.
Looks like YouTube is still live and the sound is working on YouTube.
Is that right? So, Ray, you can hear me? Let me know, Ray, if you can hear me, because Ray's on YouTube. Let me see if I can pull that one up. Thank you for checking that for me. I appreciate that. Okay. It looks like everything is okay on YouTube. I'm not quite sure. Here's Ray. Yes, I can hear and see you. So we're going to keep going because the StreamYard is fine and the YouTube is fine. And you can just click over on YouTube, and that way you can get everything that's current. And so you can just copy that. Thank you, First Lady, for putting that on there. You can just copy that and paste it into your browser, and you can join us there. Okay. So somebody can mute. Thank you. Click the YouTube link to continue tuning in. Okay, hopefully that'll correct itself. But that's not anything on my end, and so I don't know if there's anything I can do to troubleshoot. And YouTube is still up, and I don't know if my personal Facebook page is still up or if it's both of those. Let me check for just a second. Thank you for your patience. It looks like it might just be the churches because it looks like my personal page is uninterrupted. So you can go to YouTube or you can go to my personal page on Facebook. And I think both of those are up and running. Okay. So there's 3 in the series. One has to do with purpose. The other one has to do with community and what we believe about community. And we're going to talk about Ubuntu and the systems, interconnected systems of care. And the third one has to do with maturity through the commitments. So we'll do some reflections, discover your identity and calling, and there's like 4 sections that we'll do, and then the last one we'll kind of work through together individually as you kind of flesh out what that looks like in your own life. So, and the other part of this that this process of being rooted in identity through purpose is not meant to be kind of a one time for a lifetime kind of a deal. It's not like salvation. You know, you have a relationship with the Lord, and that relationship is preserved. Things change in life, and the opportunity exists for that to show up differently in terms of your personal purpose as it's fleshed out. And so, um, if something major has changed, it might be a prompt to go through this process again. And so I just kind of want to suggest and put that out there. This is just not meant to be a one-time deal. And so you'll see that on the second page. Is this your first time completing? Yes or no? If this is a revision, what prompted the revision? Well, maybe you went through a significant change. Maybe you uh, uh, moved, or you got married, or you experienced a divorce, or you had children, or anything significant in life that would prompt you to revisit. Yet that could be that could be the case. So, having said that, just by way of introduction, both Old and New Testaments recount stories of how God divinely summoned people to join him in his redemptive plan. And so when you think about call, I like to try to communicate that in terms of God's personal invitation to us to join him in his redemptive work. And oftentimes when we hear the word call, at least in my church experience, kind of being a church kid growing up in church, it was always related to the preacher. And whenever someone said they were called, the most common thing, at least in my memory and in my experience, had to do with the preacher. First Lady says, call was always about the preacher for me too. Yeah, thanks for sharing. And I want to broaden that quite a bit because I want to suggest, generally speaking, God's call is when He invites us to join Him in His redemptive plan. And there are a couple of specific elements uh, that really kind of show up in that working definition. And the first is that the call is initiated by God. Uh, awesome. Thank you, Lakana. You're able to go to YouTube and find us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And to you, First Lady, also for putting the link up and for joining us on the YouTube. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That the call is initiated by God, that from a spiritual perspective, for those who are in relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ, we don't call ourselves. And the reason that we don't call ourselves is because the call is about God's redemptive activity in the world. Thank you, Ray. Evangelism is my calling. I ran from it for years, but I'm not running from it anymore. Thank you so much for that comment. And if this is God's work, then God does the calling. But He works in such a way that He invites us to join Him in what He's doing. And so calling is really a broader concept than I was first introduced to in terms of my experience and my understanding in church. You could be called to redemptive activity in any capacity. And that's one of the things that I just kind of wanted to say to start off with. Each of the people received God's invitation and responded with faithful obedience. You can read the Old Testament and the New Testament, God's call to Jonah, or his call to Moses at the burning bush, or his call to Abram, um, and all of these Old Testament figures, and even the disciples. Come follow me, and I'll make you fishers of men. They were all initiated by God. And so if you run across a person who doesn't communicate that God is the initiator, I'm gonna kind of raise an eyebrow toward that, or I might squint a little bit, or I might think, we need to talk about that a little bit more specifically. And the good news is that God is He's still working His plan. And so that means He's still calling us to join Him. And the more we align our lives out with His purpose, which is, in fact, one of the activities, individual behaviors that mature disciples do from our maturity description, we see it right up front. The more we align ourselves with His purpose, the more we discover the joy of seeing God at work in us and through us. And so, what does it feel like to know that God is using you to accomplish His work in the world? What's that about? What's that feel like? Describe that experience of knowing this is God's work. He invited you, you responded, and you see God doing His work through you Somebody give me a description of that experience.
It's pretty it's pretty, I don't know, exciting. Um when you are actually doing what the Lord has for you to do and out there, and you see things happen and the experiences of it all, and it's just, yeah, it's just exciting to see and to be able to. So that's what I excitement.
Exciting
Hmm.
for what God is doing, or exciting that you are part of the process, or both?
Both. Hmm.
Both. Both. Okay,
Hmm.
so somebody else give me some
Hmm.
feedback. First lady, you're on camera, so you can talk live. What Describe that experience, what that's like to be a part of God's work, and he called you, and you're doing what he called you, and he's doing the work. And tell me a little bit about what that's like.
It's an amazing experience. Gosh, sometimes it can be, sometimes when I think too much about it, I can feel like, why are you using me? Who am I? What do I have to do with any of this? I am so not worthy. But it's also just exciting to know that he thought enough of me to use me. And sometimes when he allows us to even see small signs of the outcome, that is
Mm,
just like, ah, yeah.
mm. Wow, wow. Thank y'all for sharing. Lakana said it's special, to be a part of that process. The God say, I want you to do this because this is part of what I'm doing in the world. She says it's special. Um, what about when what he's doing in the world is not received, and you are doing what he's invited you to do, and it is in fact his work, and you're clear that it's his work and not your work, and um when it is met with ridicule, criticism, resistance, tell me about the other side. What is that like?
For me, I definitely begin to question myself, second guess myself. Um,
Really?
yes, absolutely. And I
Wow.
have to constantly remind myself that it's not about what they say. Um,
Mm.
Gosh, that can be difficult for me. For me, that can be very difficult. As much as I don't necessarily live in a space of caring all the time what other people think, it can get to you.
So it's story time now. Time for the pastor to tell a story. And one of the stories is Sunday morning at Antioch. Um, w- when I'm preaching, I am very clear that this is the Lord at work. In fact, when I pray before I preach, a big part of that is a reminder to me that this is what he's doing, and he's invited me to be a part of what he's doing. And a part of my prayers, even though I don't maybe say it in those words, there is an there is something on the inside of me that is being locked in to that reality. And it is almost indescribable what it feels like to, and you all have done a wonderful job of trying to describe that feeling of what it's like to have God personally invite you and to know that you are doing what he has purposed you to do, what he has invited you to do specifically in that moment or in that conversation or in that act of service or whatever it is that you're doing, that when you are having that level of awareness and that level of, it is a connection with God that is amazing. And when I pray on Sunday mornings, it's like I am reminding myself of that every single week, and asking God, um and thanking him that he still does what he does, and he still uses people, and he still uses me. Um and a lot of that is what's happening when I pray before I preach. And there is nothing quite like, and I use the example of preaching because it's part of what God has called me to do. There's nothing like feeling like I said it like he wanted me to say it. There is nothing like I did what the Lord asked me to do. That level of obedience, that level of connection, um, really intimacy with God, in those moments. Uh, for me, when I feel like he uses my own personality and my own this and my own that, um, to accomplish his purposes, very much like God using the 40 people over um, 40 people over 1500 years to write the 66 books of the Bible, that um, maybe they didn't know, maybe some of them didn't know that what they were doing was um, going to be canonized in scripture, and boy, oftentimes I'm aware of it, and there's nothing like it. On the flip side, there have been many occasions where the only solace that I had was, this is what God called me to do. Because the responses of the people on any numerous occasions have been discouraging, have been critical, have been rejecting. I remember one occasion as a new associate, we were preaching in Douglas County Jail down on 17th and Leavenworth. And they brought the guys in for church, and we had this little thing on our hip, and all we had to do was press the button, and the police would come running in there, and then they left us in there. Oh man, that's pretty scary. And on one occasion, I was preaching uh, on the gym floor. The guys were in the bleachers, and literally, as I was preaching, one of the guys was heckling me like I was a comedian. It was something I had never experienced as a young preacher, or never even experienced it happening to another preacher. I mean, no one would dare heckle the preacher in a church. Um, and there are numerous occasions where I was organizing chapel at the Omaha Street School or any other occasions. And to me, the other side was, or if I was doing Bible study at the Douglas County uh, Detention Center, where the inmates were teenagers, many occasions I just felt they were there just to get out of their cell. And there, especially earlier on in my preaching ministry, but various times, even some occasions now at Antioch, that the response of the people was discouraging, frustrating, but knowing that I did what the Lord called me to do was like my saving grace, in terms of how I felt about that moment. And so I've experienced it on both sides. I've experienced it on both sides. We got a comment here. Reverend Harvey would say the people looking at you like they've been sucking on lemons. Yeah. Yeah. Well, sometimes that happens every Sunday at the Antioch Baptist Church with some, truth be told. Yeah. And it's the fact that I'm standing because God put me here. And some people are receptive, but any Sunday, every Sunday, it appears that there are some who are not. I'm going to say that again. On any Sunday, on every Sunday, I experience that through the body language and stuff that sometimes I see. And it is this matter of calling and purpose in those moments that sustain me. And so I want to share. There is an exciting part, but then there's another part as well. And I want us to understand both sides of that deal. It's part of living out your purpose. First Lady says that sounds distracting. Praise God for your stick to itness. More than distracting, it's discouraging. It can suck the life out of you if you let it. And being clear about calling and purpose matter, especially in those moments, is a big part of what I'm trying to get to. Ray, if you're out there on Saturdays and the people aren't responding and you got the evangelism tracks, and if we went off of results, if ministry was a results only business and not a faithfulness business, it would be horrible for some and prideful for others. It would be too easy to try to take the credit, and it would be too easy to try to own other people's responses. And this matters when those difficult days come. If you are not even clear that this is what God has called you to do, you might conclude it ain't worth it. And that could be anything. It could be your marriage. if you're not clear that this is a part of your calling, that this is connected to your purpose, purpose can can sustain you when responses don't. Ray says, I get discouraged sometimes, but I remember what my purpose is. Yeah, it's got to be, you got to be clear on the front end. It is common knowledge in preaching circles that people who say that they've been called to preach have almost been they've been challenged. They've been almost to the point where it might appear on the outside that it might be discouragement. I've heard some people say, if you can do anything else but preaching, you need to do that. And what's really behind all of that is, whether you agree with the methodology, what's behind all of that is, are you sure? Because if you're not sure, or if it ain't God, if it's something else, if you got Mike Mania, you want to be popular, or you got you want to make money, or if you got other things going on, when those conditions don't exist, you might be outie. And so, um, really, I really didn't intend to be this long on this particular introduction, but I think it's important for us to think through how important this matter is, um, because at any given moment, there could be results, or there could be the results could be encouraging, or they could be discouraging. And being sustained by purpose matters, which really kind of leads me to another of those. Let me go back to it real quick. Um, those characteristics of mature believers. That first one and the third one: discern and respond to God's voice. That's why it's so important in this study that we're engaging in, to be able to determine who's doing the calling, who's speaking, who's inviting. Are you inviting yourself, or can you discern? Are you able to tell God's voice from your own desires? It is a critical skill in this whole matter of purpose, uh, discerning God's voice. And so maybe I just want to ask you all to think about that. And as we enter this study, how do you know, in general, how did I know that God was speaking to me and he called me into the ministry? How do I know that it was God that was speaking to me regarding being the principal of the street school, or the pastor of Antioch, or the president of the convention, um, or clinical pastoral education, going down the chaplaincy route? Like, that's a big part of one of the things that we'll be discussing as we go through this curriculum. What is God saying? And But on the front end, it's important for us to do that, so that this third one here that says align your life with God's purpose, um, it is a skill that mature believers engage in. Yeah. So any thoughts about being clear that it was God that called you, We talked about the experience of what it's like when you know that, but we didn't talk about how did you know that it was God, and what was it like to align your life with his purposes? How did you know it was God? And what was it like to align your life up with his purpose? Before you got to the excitement and the sustaining on the front end, how did you know it was God, and what was it like to align yourself up with his purpose?
So I tend to be more of a skeptic than I like to believe that I am. And so I find that when the Lord is telling me to do something, he has to tell me over and over again. I have to receive multiple confirmations.
Hmm.
And at a certain point, I finally am like, okay, I hear you. Okay, I get it. I get it. Um, but I think that's just because he knows me. He knows me, and he knows that I'm going to have to overcome some fears and objections. And therefore, he has to keep telling me the same thing over and over again until I surrender.
So God has to do things a certain way because he knows you.
He does.
That's what I heard you say. I just want to make sure I understood what you were saying. Interesting response. Ray says, over the years, several people prophesied that I was called to evangelism, as well as myself feeling conviction. So sometimes it might be other people. Thank you for sharing, Ray. Thank you for sharing, First Lady. Um, I think about the story of Jonah and his disobedience resulted in consequences for him and everyone around him. And that was the case in my life. Not only did I suffer when I was disobedient as an 18-year-old teenager, but everyone around me suffered when I eventually started a young family and was in disobedience to God's will for my life. There were consequences to pay. And some people paid consequences for my lack of disobedience, just like those fellas in the boat with Jonah who almost drowned. And through their association and proximity to Jonah. Um, and so in my immaturity, I have not always had the track record of hearing from God and responding to him, like that. Um, I've gotten better over the years at how do I know that is him? Just briefly, here are my thoughts. We'll get to this a little bit later, but on the front end, it's important. Number one, what he says will be consistent with what's in the Bible. He's not going to tell me to do anything that is contrary to his word. So if it's contrary to his word, then that wasn't God speaking. That's a clear one. It'll let you know what's out of bounds. And so that was one. I think another one, let me see. Let me go back. Let me put Ray's comment back up here. Myself feeling conviction for ministry. There is an internal, I don't know if I want to use the word subjective, but that's the word that comes to mind in this moment. That I'm in relationship with God, and my sheep know my voice and they follow me. I think that's one of the scriptures that we'll look at later on toward the end of this study. And it's going to be consistent with his word. It's going to be confirmed in my heart. Sometimes God uses other people in the process. Ray talked about, let me go back to the first part of what he said. People prophesied. And that's a different conversation, but God can use other people. He can use his word. He can use circumstances to speak to us. And so when we go back to discerning and responding to God's voice as an indicator of spiritual maturity, discerning his voice can look directly from him through his word. It can look, he can speak to us through circumstances. He can speak to us through other people. And I think those are all legitimate ways that we begin to discern God's voice, especially when those things align up. You know, our disciplines, not just the study of his word, but our prayer time, our fasting, our disciplines, life circumstances, other people. I believe God speaks to us in those three modes. And at some point, there's always going to be room for faith. Are you going to trust him or are you not? This has been my experience with discerning the voice of God and responding through his word and other disciplines, through circumstances, through other people, and responding to him has always been about faith and obedience. It's about the nature of my trust in him. And my slowness in responding or my lack of responding is more about me than it is about God needing to repeat himself to me. And those are some of my experiences. And then also in terms of aligning, I'm gonna go back to that other one, aligning your life with God's purpose as an indicator of spiritual maturity. I have found that in many cases, it involves, not just in my life, but even in the stories of the Bible, it involves great sacrifice. He tells the disciples, follow me and I'll make you fishers of men. He told one person to follow me, and then they said, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. I just got married, or let me do this first, or let me do that first. And Jesus said, if you're not worthy of following me. And in Abraham, leave your country and your kindred and follow me, and to a land that I will show you, with partial information. And there was great sacrifice. He literally had to relocate his life to a place where he didn't even know where he was going. That it often involves great sacrifice. Um, a part of my spiritual journey in responding to God had a lot to do with my willingness to make great sacrifice, to align my life with His purpose. And so, what is it that draws us to make great sacrifice? What compels us? I keep picking on Ray's. Oh, let me go back to this one. Remember what my purpose is and conviction for ministry. What is it that compels us to make the great sacrifice after we've discerned it was Him, to respond to Him and align our lives up and make sacrifice? What is it that compels you to do that? It can be scary and takes great faith. So why do it if it's so scary and it takes great faith?
Because he asked me to. He
What's
sent
the
me
big
to.
deal about Him asking you to?
Well, just he's my father, and I'm being obedient, and this is what he asked for me to do. I give my life to him, and so these tasks I have planned for you, and I think he would want us to follow through as much as possible.
Mm. So I'm hearing you speak to the nature of your relationship with God.
Hmm.
And you didn't say it, but was there an element of your desire to please Him involved in that willingness also?
Oh yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I want to say well done when I hit those pearly gates. Well
Yeah.
done.
Oh my goodness. Th- I think that's where the rubber meets the road.
Hmm.
Like, how much do you love Him? Do you love Him enough to make great sacrifice to align your life up with His purpose?
Hmm.
How much do you love? How close? How much do you trust Him? How much do you love Him? How much do you want to please Him? A little bit, then
All
there's going to
that.
be little sacrifice. A
Hmm.
some bit, there'll be some sacrifice. A lot of
Hmm.
bit, there'll be a lot of sacrifice. That I don't know. I think we stumbled onto something here, y'all. When we think about um, well, in Jonah's case, he experienced consequence, but when he was in the belly of the great fish, it was about his relationship with God. There's no doubt the consequences got his attention, but in the final analysis, I would like to think it's more about loving God than avoiding His whooping. I would like to think it's more of a positive thing than the avoidance of the pain of God's discipline. Although certainly the pain of God's discipline was a whole lot to get my attention.
Yes, I was going to say that. I mean, just when you just sit for a moment and just think of the time when you were not following his what he had for you to do, and uh, all of the I don't even know the word to say. It was just a mess, and for him to allow me to be here today is just, why wouldn't I give him my all in all? Because there was a time he could have just set me down completely or taken me out. Um, But yeah, that's my testimony.
Well, this is deeply personal. Thank you, Didi, for sharing. We got another comment on YouTube from Elizabeth. Truly understanding how much he sacrificed for me and in my place, a debt I can never repay. That's a great motivator. Gratitude, that is a great motivator. God's discipline in my life um, got my attention, but ultimately, it was about me trusting him to concede. As I'm kind of reflecting kind of back on my life. The chastisement is not pleasant. Um but it brings me to a point of my relationship with him. And ultimately, for me, I had to up the love and the trust in order to step out on faith and align my life. Um, last story. So this would have been second Sunday in June 1996. The occasion was my first sermon, Morning Star Baptist Church, and Ricky Kendricks had sung the last song. And Pastor Agerson looked over me, and it was time for me to stand and to preach. And that moment was frozen in time for me. It was like, I don't know, an hour in a second. And I knew if I stood up and preached, my life would change. And there was like this contemplative moment in me. And um, and it felt like it was a long time, but it was probably only a second. And I knew that the course of my life was in the balance. And in that moment, there was this inner conviction to follow him, to trust him, and a knowing that my life would change, um, and trusting him enough with that change. And so as we have set the stage to go into this purpose conversation, the challenge for us is to reflect on the nature of our relationship with God. Discerning how we hear from God, and knowing upfront that walking in purpose is costly, that it will require sacrifice. And oftentimes it will require great sacrifice, but we got to know upfront, we got to have the why to the sacrifice. And if we spend some time in reflection on those things on the front end, as we go through these different dimensions of purpose, um, different but interconnecting dimensions, ultimate purpose, universal purpose, corporate purpose, personal purpose. Each one of those, we've got to ask ourselves the same questions. Is this God? How do we know? What's it require for us? And we've got to address our willingness to pay the price and be clear on why we are doing it. And ultimately, it's got to fall back on our love for the Lord, our relationship with him, our trust in him. And we got to keep doing that process over and over and over and over and over again. It's not just a one-time deal. And so that's our introduction. We spent one whole lesson on the introduction, but I'm grateful that the Lord had led us to kind of slow down a little bit on the front end. And any final thoughts on our introduction to this great conversation? All right. Well, may the peace of God be
Be
unto you.
to you. And
And
also unto
also
you.
unto you.
Let's
Let's
go
Go
change
change the
the
world.
world.
Good night, sister.
I'm starting with the man in the mirror. Oh, yeah.
Escape.